Hi, my friends. Just wanted to jump on real quick and bring y'all a fun video on Bible journaling in Jonah. And I wanted to share this fun technique with you. It's super simple. And as I've been digging in, I haven't had a ton of time to do my Bible journaling lately. So I'm really enjoying these quick techniques that still give me that reflection of the time I spent. It's a visual remembrance, which helps me remember what I learned and what God spoke to me and what I learned as I studied. So I've got a chunky stencil here, and I'm using my interleaved Bible. This Bible has a blank page after every page of text. This stencil, I believe, is from joggles.com. Let's see, there's a number on here, 75033. I think it's one by Elizabeth St. Hilaire. They have wonderful stencils, and especially these 9x12s are great because they work in the full pages of my Bible, but they're also great for making collage paper because it covers the whole sheet of paper. Whether you're using them to gel print, or you can use this fun technique too, and then you don't need a gel plate to do this. So I'm actually going to put this under my page, and I need to grab a piece of parchment paper or some sort of something to protect the page behind it. Copy paper will work just fine. That way I don't paint my pages together. It's never any fun. These chunkier stencils work the best with this technique. You don't want something that has super fine details in it. It's just not going to work quite as well. The spaces don't have to be quite this big, but this is what I have, and I'm in Jonah, so I'm actually trying to get something that looks a lot like waves or a semblance of waves. So this is a great look for that, I think. So I'm going to tuck the stencil up as far as I can into the inside of my Bible here, and I'm going to hold it firm. Now I've got two colors of paint because I am doing waves. I've got a light teal, which is actually called Viridian in this, and ultramarine. You can use any colors for this, but anytime you're doing this technique, it works. I've found the best if you use a light color and a darker color. So you get that contrast, so it really shows up well. So I've got a stencil, I've got two colors of acrylic paint, one light and one dark, and I've got a plastic gift card. Okay, this one happens to have Mickey on it, but any plastic card, hotel key, old gift card, anything like that will work just fine. If you don't have those, a really stiff chunk of cardboard will work, or even just a cut up piece of plastic, maybe off like one of those plastic cutting mats from the dollar store, or a piece of packaging. Any of that will work fine. And I don't need a lot of paint. These Master's Touch paints are nice if you're looking for a heavier bodied paint than like your craft paint. But any paint will work. I just happen to like these for this. And what you want to do is wait until Hobby Lobby puts all their Master's Touch stuff on sale and get them at half price. And since they do that every couple of weeks, as long as you plan ahead, it's a really good time to stock up and get some pretty decent quality paint and some fun colors. So I'm going to dip my card in the paint. I don't think you can quite see that, but okay, so I'm dipping my card in the paint. And then I'm just going to hold my page firm against the stencil, press down and pull. And look at that fun relief print I'm getting behind it. Now the big thing is you don't want to keep going back and forth, but you can definitely kind of pick up where you left off, which is why you want to hold it firmly. But the more you go back and forth on it, the less detail you're going to end up with in the end. So that's why I say that. So try and do it in one stroke, but you know, doesn't always work that way. And I'm just rubbing out a little bit of those stripes. So you want to get it thick enough, like I said, that it'll go down the page. carefully trying to hold this firmly and get my fingers out of the way. Okay, so how much fun is that? Again, you're getting that stencil print without having to sponge or brush the stencil in. It's kind of like if you ever did those crayon rubbings as a kid. Same idea. It's just a relief. Okay, so now I've got my light color down. I'm going to leave everything in place. Now, most of that's pretty thin, so it should just take a few minutes to dry, but I'm going to blast it with a dryer real quick so we can move on. I've got some spots that are a little thicker than others, and that by itself looks pretty cool, frankly. Now you want to be careful not to heat it up too much with the stencil behind it, so we don't want to get that stencil too hot since it is plastic. But I'm not hanging out in one place for very long, and there's not too much to dry, just a couple thick spots. Okay. I've still got a couple spots that are a little dry, but like I said, I don't really want to get my stencil too hot, and I don't want to move it because I want to keep it in the same place. So while I give that another second, the journaling for this page is mostly out of Jonah 2. And this is after, if you're familiar with the story, I'll actually pick up in 1 verse 17. It says, "The Lord appointed a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights." Which, if you see, I've got some little doodles in journaling down here at the bottom, which talks about how that picture, it's a picture of Jesus, because Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights, and Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights. In chapter 2, we read where God spoke to the fish, and the fish spit Jonah out. And then at the end of 3 days, death spit Jesus out, and he came out victorious, holding the keys to death, hell, and the grave. That's powerful enough to stop me right there, frankly. But if you continue on into Jonah 2, so he's sitting in the belly of the fish at this point. After he's tried to run from God, he's tried to get away from what God told him to do. I think we all know that you can't outrun God, but this is definitely a reminder of that. And he says, "I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice, for you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas. The floods surrounded me. All your waves and your billows passed over me. And then I said, I'm driven away from your sight. Yet I shall again look upon your holy temple. And the waters closed in over me to take my life. The deep surrounded me." And continues down, "Yet you brought up my life from the pit. O Lord my God, when my life was fainting away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you in your holy temple. With the voice of thanksgiving, I will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will pay. Salvation belongs to the Lord." And then the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah out on dry land. Because after all, the creation always obeys the Creator. Wow. So I just think that's a beautiful picture of God's patience and his grace with us. When Jonah didn't want to do what he was called to do, God could have easily used someone else, right? He could have just let him go, but he didn't. And not only didn't he didn't just punish him, or he didn't throw him in the sea and let him drown. He rescued him. He wrapped him inside the fish. And when he repented, God listened. He forgave him. He spit him out and saved him. And then Jonah returned and repented and carried on to do what God asked him to do. I think sometimes we all need that reminder that no matter where we're at, and no matter how distressed we are, how underwater we are, how much we feel like we are literally in a pit and cast into the deep that God's listening. And all we have to do is cry out to him. And it doesn't have to be pretty. But he's listening. And not only is he listening, he also answers us. And you notice he doesn't chastise Jonah there. He doesn't say, well, I'm going to leave you in that fish to think about what you've done, right? He's already repented, and God knows his heart and knows the sincerity of it. And so, again, we're reminded that salvation is the Lord's. And not only that, he's always there waiting to offer it, because that's all he wants for his children. Okay? So, with all that being said, I'm going to put my darker color on. So, same thing. I've just got my little paper plate here. I'm going to dip it in this darker ultramarine blue. I'm going to get enough on there, again, that I can spread it down the page, so I don't have to do it too many times. And the same thing, I'm just going to firmly place it on top and drag it down. A little much on there, so I'm going to pull that down some more. And you see how fun this is. The reason we could stop with the one color for sure, but the reason I like doing two colors is you get that fun contrast, and some of the light color peeks through, and then you have the dark contrast on top of it. You might get a little stripe action. You can kind of run that through again, depending on how you hold your card, how hard you press. But again, you just don't want to keep going over and over the same spot, or it'll just get kind of mushy and you won't get much pattern left. I'm running out of paint here. I'm gonna have to squirt just a little bit more out. Alright, so I'm gonna miss that middle part there. And I ran out of paint right there. All right. So again, I'm not trying to look exactly like waves, just give the idea of it. I'm gonna rub that off my card. But how fun is that? And we have a really fun background. Move that stencil out of the way. Now I can dry it a little bit more. And you'll see where I left it heavier over here, you've got a lot more definition, and then this one's kind of washed out because I pressed more with the card. So it kind of just depends on the look you like. I like a little bit of both just because it kind of gives you that more distressed, fun look. And again, you could do this on separate paper. Absolutely, any kind of paper, even like junk journaling or book pages, anything like that, and use it for either collage paper or to insert as a journaling page. In this case, I just did it straight in my Bible because I've got the blank page, and then I don't have any extra steps trying to glue any background paper in. Just give that a little dry there. The thickest part is going to take the longest to dry, but it's pretty much done. Okay. So now the only thing I have left is to put my words on here. And I could do that with anything I wanted to do. I could print out the words off my computer, or use letter stickers or stamps. I think I'm just going to try a paint pen and see how that works, and we'll find out together. I've got this paint crayon, so I might try that first. I'm not sure if it's going to be quite the look I want, but we'll see. Let's see. Well, it's pretty nice. So again, I'm not using any fancy lettering. I can pull this extra paper out. And this, by the way, is a Sakura solid paint marker, So it's actually solidified paint, so it's kind of like a paint pen, except it's more like a crayon, but it is paint. So I'm just writing I call on. This is pretty fun because I only have, like, I'm kind of going over it just to make sure it's pretty solid. But you don't have to shake it or anything like a regular paint pen, although I really do like the Posca paint pens. This is kind of fun. So I probably will come through and outline it anyway, just because whether I do this in white or if I do it in black or darker color, it's either way, it's got a busy background, so it kind of needs something to set it apart. I call on the Lord. And he answers me. So again, you can add whatever, as little or as much text as you like. But again, I wanted to share this technique with you too, not only because it's a beautiful reminder and a word from Jonah, but also this technique could be used in any page with any kind of print or colors or anything. It's really versatile. And he and again, I'm just using some basic print here, nothing fancy. Makes it, to me, it makes it more personal to have your own writing in there a lot of times. But you know what? It's really just about whatever you're the most comfortable with. But I will say one nice thing is you don't have to worry so much about things being the right size, like when you're using stamps or stickers and sometimes they just don't fit right. He answers me. All right. So I got my white lettering down, and I think I will just come around that. Let me see if I can find, I got my black Posca pen right here. So this, I think, is an extra fine one. Make sure it's working. So I think I'll just come around this and see how that works. Kind of make the letters stand out. I'll start with kind of a drop shadow and see how that works without having to outline the whole thing. I think that's good. And when I say drop shadow, it means I'm just going around like one side of it, almost like there was another of the same letter underneath it. I don't know where that shadow would be. So a lot of times you just want to pick kind of which side you're going to do it on, so you're doing it on the same on everything. Or you can just outline it, that works too. It gives it a little more dimension. Like I said, when you have a busy background, you usually need something to set your letters apart, because no matter what color you pick, at some point it's going to be hard to see. I'm just going to keep going around. So let me know. Hopefully this is helpful to you guys. Maybe something you want to try. I may do another video just showing the technique with a few different types of stencils on some collage paper. So let me know if maybe you'd be interested in that. Didn't want to make this too long, like I said, but I did want to share just that brief message and reminder with you, as well as this technique. I thought it was super fun. And like I said, minimal investment or supplies too. You can even make your own stencils to use for something like this. If you're going to use it for a relief process like what I just did, the only thing is you want to make sure that you cut a stencil out of something that's stiff enough basically to be bumpy underneath it. So cut it out of a thicker cardstock, or some light cardboard, or like a manila folder or something along those lines. Just something so you get the bumps underneath it, because that's what you really need to make this work. For other purposes, it doesn't really matter too much. So I said, just a little reminder, you don't always have to go out and buy. Things fresh for something like this. Sorry. Lettering and talking are not my strong suit. Not at the same time, anyway. All right. Like I said, that may not be completely consistent, but it's all right because this is just for me, but the letters do pop out a little bit more, so at least I can read it better. And other than that, the only thing I'm going to do is come down here and date it. So I come back and remember, you guys can see I tend to put my notes in this Bible. I put notes and little doodles on one side, and I usually like to do kind of a big impact journaling page on the other side for my own records, because then I go back and I can remember easier. And even when I'm not looking at it, just the visual part of it and the time I spent on it helped me remember better what I studied, and helps it sink in a little better for the way my brain works. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you'd like to see more, especially of a similar technique, or just more journaling pages, more art techniques. Just let me know in the comments. All right. Love you guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.